Hey, have you seen this show? Have you heard about this show? I need to tell everyone about this show. Okay, let me explain. Longtime fans of the channel know that I have a particular affinity for what are called mystery box shows. Shows with a serialized mystery that slowly unfolds over multiple seasons. If pressed for time when I need to explain it, I usually say, Lost, like that. Of course, however accurate that description is, it immediately puts the entire concept in a negative light because, well, Lost is infamous for royally screwing up its mystery plot, right? I might be a teeny tiny bit obsessed with Lost, the mistakes it made, and what it could have been. So many people dismiss Lost as a failure, with a concept that was rotten from the get-go. But I say, no, Lost had something. This kind of thing can be done right. In a way, my entire YouTube career is just one long hunt for Lost but good. And I've gotten pretty close. Gravity Falls, Dark, Manifest, all of these shows set up early mysteries, built them over time, and then gave them a satisfying resolution and payoff at the end. But none of them quite scratched that same itch. Until now. Because chugging along on some obscure streaming service nobody's ever heard of, with a name that's impossible to Google, is a show by some of the same creators that's just so good. Here's why you need to be watching From. Alright, here's the basic premise. There's this town that people find themselves in while on the road. They drive in, but when they try to drive out, they just end up right back in town again. People from all different backgrounds find themselves stuck here as they try to build a new life. Which might not be so bad, except there are monsters that come out at night to kill you and eat you. If you're inside, they can only come in if you let them in. We follow the Matthews family, who find their way there in the pilot and serve as the audience surrogate. We soon meet the true lead of the show, Sheriff Boyd Stevens, who's a little intense, but it's hard to blame him. It's his job to keep everyone alive. And before long, you're introduced to a pretty sizable ensemble cast, all living in this nightmarish world together. The show has 2 seasons on MGM Plus and a 3rd one airing right now. The setup and feel of the show has a lot in common with something like Under the Dome, or the Gone series if you saw that video of mine, or, again, Lost. To be very clear, this is a horror show. It's really gruesome and violent, and much like a zombie story, anyone could die at any time. It's tense and stressful and very easy to binge because you just want to see how they handle all the stuff the story throws at them. But the real draw of the show is the mystery. They are not shy about it. The first line of any description always says, "Unravel the mystery." You start out with the question of what this place is and why people can't leave, and also what the monsters are. And it very quickly spirals out into a whole host of other supernatural goings-on that hint at a bigger picture. You've got characters having hallucinatory visions, weird hidden places with buried secrets, strange creatures that lurk in the darkness, characters who know more than they're saying but won't tell people what they know for some reason, a symbol of unknown meaning that shows up on things, and characters writing down all their thoughts on conspiracy boards. It's got everything you'd expect from a mystery story like this.
There has got to be an explanation. And none of you people seem to be looking for it.
A couple of videos ago, I made a parody of this kind of thing, and it's amazing how much this show fits it to a T. The show is also not shy about comparing itself to Lost. It announces as much right in the beginning of the trailer, and in casting Harold Perrineau, who played Michael, as the lead. Lost showrunners Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse are not involved, which is a shame because I think they're responsible for all the best things in that show. But From is run by Jack Bender, who directed a bunch of Lost episodes, and is just generally one of the highest regarded TV directors in the business. And Jeff Pinkner, who worked on Lost and Fringe, another mystery box show that's super high on my viewing list. And former Lost writer Javier Grillo-Marxuax is also on the writing staff here. It's interesting that they're so open about the Lost connection, because Lost is such a divisive show. I don't know, maybe it's been long enough that more people look back more fondly, remembering the good parts alongside the bad. The Lost influences are also obvious in the writing. There's the setup, where instead of a big group of people trapped on an island, they're in a creepy town. But also, the way it's developed its mystery plot so far is pretty much identical. You've got your initial couple questions that provide a starting hook, with more and more details introduced over time that slowly pile up, linking together in unexpected ways and promising that if you keep watching, everything will come together and all of it will make sense. In terms of mystery box storytelling, it's textbook. This is, for me, the most addictive and compelling show I've seen in years. The thrill of seeing this mystery unfold is unparalleled, and I haven't felt this way about a show since Lost. At that, you're probably wondering why I'm not more skeptical. If this show is following the same playbook as Lost, written by the same creators as Lost, how do I know that it won't crash and burn at the end just like Lost? Well, the situations are different in ways that aren't so obvious. Let's begin to answer that question by explaining what went wrong with Lost. At this point, the narrative is pretty set in stone. The writers introduced a bunch of mysteries with no plan for how to answer them, and then they kept introducing more mysteries to keep the show going. So by the time the show was ready to end, they had a bunch of random, half-baked, mysterious nonsense and no way to wrap it up. They did their best, but it still left a lot hanging. And the audience, many of whom had kept watching because they wanted answers, felt cheated. We know what happened. What goes under-discussed, though, is why it happened. There are clear reasons for the show ending up this way, and some clear people to blame. The first is J.J. Abrams. I think he might be like my nemesis at this point. He was the main producer-creator who got the show off the ground. As I've talked about too many times to count, his whole deal is that he introduces mysteries with no plan as a cheap way to hook audiences in. He's the one who put all these mysteries in Lost. But he only worked on the first couple of episodes before piecing out to direct Mission Impossible 3, leaving the showrunners to fumble their way through the mess he left them. The rest of the blame lies with ABC, the network. Lost was a big hit, so they wanted it to run indefinitely, forcing the writers to keep it going and add more and more mystery. I think Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse are talented enough that they could have made a satisfying ending if they had been allowed to plan ahead and end when they felt ready. Unfortunately, network meddling hamstrung their ability to solve the problem.
The show was such a phenomenal success that ABC, who produced the show, were like, we're never ending this show, you know? And so if you're just running a race and you think you started a 10K and then like at mile 3, there's an announcement like, you are now running a marathon. And then at mile 20, they're like, we'll get back to you about how long the race is. You know, you just don't know how to pace yourself.
None of these roadblocks are present in From. J.J. Abrams isn't involved, and the TV landscape has moved away from shows that go on forever. And From's writers have promised that they really do have all the answers to the mysteries mapped out. Which, you know, they could be lying, but in all the interviews I've seen, they seem very aware of the mistakes of Lost and are actively trying not to repeat them.
I don't want to dwell on it, but still being criticized for the finale of Lost. I think with From, there's always that. I would say that it's going to be a very satisfying, and I'm not just tap dancing here, it's going to be a very satisfying, the connective tissue will make sense in a way that it'll be gratifying, and all the little Easter eggs and things and moments along the way that we find, the little nuggets of gold here and there, are going to build a pyramid by the end, and we'll figure it all out, but it won't be a punchline.
But the real reason I feel so confident that From will be better is just what I've seen from the show's writing so far. Right away, the approach to mystery feels different from Lost. What I've found with these types of shows is that the biggest predictor of whether the ending will be satisfying is if the characters in the story also want answers. We're supposed to identify with the characters, and when the characters care about solving things, that signals that the writers are aware that we expect answers. The characters in Lost never really made it a priority to figure out what the island was. They mostly rolled with the punches, focusing on trying to survive and get home. Even when really crazy stuff happened, nobody ever seemed super curious.
You know those days when you're like, this might as well happen?
From is different. A lot of the main characters see solving the mystery of the town as the key to going home.
We're gonna do some problem solving. And the way you problem solve is by asking questions.
They're willing to do a lot, risk a lot, just to find information. It's not everyone. There's a big point made early on that most people lose the emotional bandwidth to think about this stuff. But enough characters care that somebody's working on solving something almost every episode. Boyd, Jim and Tabby Matthews, and especially Jade. Jade is hands down my favorite character. He showed up around the same time as the Matthews family, and he's so much fun as the abrasive genius archetype. He's 100% focused on cracking all these mysteries, and it's so fun to see him alternate between actually figuring things out and losing his mind.
The problem is there's too much we don't know. Try to imagine what a jigsaw puzzle looks like when all you have is a few random pieces. The trick is you find two pieces that connect. Then at least you have a place to start.
This show has promised that no matter how convoluted things get, and it has gotten pretty convoluted already, it really is all connected, and we'll get an explanation that makes sense and ties it all together by the end. And unlike the shows that came before it, this one is willing and able to deliver. One more thing. Longtime viewers might be curious about why I made a video like this. This isn't really my MO. I make full, in-depth explainer videos after a show ends, with the occasional prediction video in between. But this was too important. Besides the fact that I love everything I've seen from the show so far and I wanted to talk about it, well, it's on MGM Plus. This show is buried on a streaming service nobody has even heard of. I never would have known about it if it hadn't been for a couple of commenters telling me it's exactly the kind of show I would love. Thanks for that. So I need to do my part and spread the word. I'm less worried that From will end up like Lost, and more worried it'll end up like 1899, canceled before its time because it gets lost in a sea of streaming shows. MGM Plus, formerly Epix, was run by MGM, which was recently bought by Amazon. I hoped that they would fold it into Amazon Prime before long, but it looks like a bunch of complicated contract issues are keeping that from happening. The first 2 seasons were on Prime for a few weeks before the 3rd season came out, but for the time being, it's locked away where nobody will ever find it if they don't already know about it. That's why I needed to get out and evangelize, tell people this show exists. We all need to make sure Amazon knows they've got a hit here, so that if MGM Plus falls apart, they know to make sure From stays alive. Although, honestly, I'm probably worried over nothing. From seems like it's doing just fine. This is a show on MGM Plus that's still pulling in numbers mostly through positive word of mouth. That alone should tell you how good the show is if you still weren't sold. So go, watch it. Season 3 is airing right now. If this sounds like a show you would like, and you're willing to drop a few bucks to check it out, please do. And when Season 3 ends a few months from now, come right back here, because I'll have a recap and prediction video ready. Let's find out what this town is together, because I want more people to experience this with me. Happy watching.
Something here is missing. We just can't see it yet. But we will.